He slapped a pregnant nurse and walked away like nothing happened. No apology, no regret, just pure arrogance. But what he didn't know would destroy his entire world. That nurse wasn't alone. She was someone's sister, and not just anyone's. The moment her brother found out, everything changed. Power shifted, fear spread, and the man who thought he owned the world was about to lose everything in seconds. But here's the twist. Will revenge destroy him, or will a single act of forgiveness change everything? Stay till the end, because this story will show you how one moment of disrespect can cost a lifetime of power. Welcome to Heroic Stories Hub, where powerful emotions meet unforgettable stories. If you believe in justice, respect, and real-life lessons, you're in the right place. Subscribe now and become part of a journey where every story teaches something powerful. The loud, burning slap echoed through the hospital hallway, cutting through the air like a knife. Everything stopped. Nurses froze mid-step. A patient's file slipped from someone's hand and hit the floor. Even the machines seemed quieter for a moment, as if the entire place was holding its breath. Aisha staggered backward, her hand instantly rising to her cheek. Her skin burned where the impact had landed. The shock was worse than the pain. I was just trying to help you, sir," she whispered, her voice barely audible. Her eyes filled with tears, but she blinked rapidly, trying to hold them back. She was trained to be strong. She had seen pain, blood, loss. But this humiliation was different. Standing in front of her was Victor Kane, a man known across the city for his wealth, power, and ruthless personality. His expensive suit, polished shoes, and cold expression made it clear he believed he was above everyone else. He adjusted his cufflinks calmly, as if nothing had happened. "Don't touch me again," he snapped, his voice sharp and filled with anger. Aisha instinctively stepped back, one hand still protecting her stomach. "I'm sorry. You looked dizzy. I thought you might fall," she said softly, her voice shaking. Victor let out a short, mocking laugh. "Do you even know who I am?" he said, leaning slightly closer, his eyes filled with arrogance. The nurses nearby lowered their gazes. No one spoke, no one moved. Everyone knew his name. Everyone knew his influence, and everyone knew the consequences of crossing him. Aisha swallowed hard. "It doesn't matter who you are, sir. You needed help," she replied gently, still trying to stay professional. Victor's expression darkened. "People like you should learn their limits," he said coldly. Those words hit her harder than the slap. People like you. She stood there silent, her heart pounding in her chest. "I didn't mean any disrespect," she said, her voice breaking slightly. Victor waved his hand as if she was nothing. "Stay out of my way," he said, turning around without another glance. And just like that, he walked away, as if he hadn't just humiliated a woman in front of everyone, as if her pain didn't matter, as if she didn't matter. The hallway remained silent for a few seconds after he left. Then slowly, reality returned. Aisha's legs felt weak. She reached for the nearest chair and sat down carefully. Tears finally escaped her eyes, rolling down her cheeks. One of her colleagues rushed towards her. "Aisha, are you okay?" she asked, kneeling beside her. Aisha forced a small nod. "I'm fine," she whispered, even though her voice said otherwise. Her colleague looked at her cheek, now slightly red. "He had no right to do that," she said angrily. Aisha quickly shook her head. "Please, don't say anything," she replied, her voice filled with fear. "We can't get involved with someone like him." Her colleague clenched her fists but stayed silent. Aisha placed both hands gently on her belly. Her expression softened for a moment. "It's okay. I'm here," she whispered to her unborn child. But deep inside, she felt broken. Not just because of the slap, but because of the way he looked at her. As if she was nothing. As if her kindness was a weakness. The rest of her shift felt endless. Every step she took felt heavier. Every patient she helped reminded her why she chose this job, but also reminded her how cruel people could be. Some staff members glanced at her with sympathy. Others avoided her completely, afraid to be associated with the incident. No one spoke about it openly, but everyone knew. By the time her shift ended, the sun had already begun to set. Aisha slowly walked out of the hospital, her shoulders slightly slumped. The cool evening air touched her face, but it didn't ease the pain inside. She reached her small apartment after a quiet, lonely journey. As soon as she closed the door behind her, the silence hit harder. She leaned against the door and closed her eyes. For a moment, she stayed there, just breathing. Then slowly, she walked to the mirror. Her reflection stared back at her. The mark on her cheek was still visible. Her eyes were red. Her expression, tired. "Why?" she whispered to herself. She touched her cheek gently and winced. "I was only trying to help you," she said again, as if trying to understand what went wrong. Tears began to fall again. This time, she didn't stop them. She moved to the couch and held her belly once more. "You're going to be okay," she whispered softly. "I promise I won't let anything happen to you." Her voice trembled, but there was strength hidden beneath it. After a few minutes, she reached for her phone. Her fingers hesitated above the screen. There was only one person she wanted to call, one person who had always protected her. But she knew calling him would change everything. She took a deep breath. Then finally, she dialed the number. The phone rang once, twice. Then the call connected. "Aisha?" A calm, deep voice answered. The moment she heard her brother's voice, her control broke. "Brother," she said, her voice shaking uncontrollably. "Aisha, what's wrong?" he asked immediately, his tone turning serious. She tried to speak, but her words came out in broken pieces. I was at work, and—" "Slow down. Tell me clearly," he said, his voice steady but tense. She took a shaky breath. "Someone slapped me," she finally said. There was silence on the other end. Not normal silence, a dangerous silence. "Who?" he asked after a few seconds. Aisha closed her eyes. "It doesn't matter. Please, I don't want any trouble," she said quickly. But her brother didn't respond immediately. When he finally spoke, his voice had changed. It was colder, stronger. "It matters to me," he said firmly. Aisha's grip on the phone tightened. "I'm okay, really. Just forget it," she insisted. But deep down, she knew her brother. He was not the kind of man who forgot things like this, especially not when it came to her. And far away, on the other side of that phone call, a storm had already begun. The next morning, the hospital didn't feel the same. There was a strange tension in the air, like something big was about to happen. Whispers moved quietly from one corner to another. "Did you hear what happened yesterday? Yeah, that billionaire, he slapped her. And she didn't even fight back." Aisha walked through the entrance slowly, her eyes lowered. She could feel the stares. Some were filled with sympathy, others with fear. She adjusted her scarf slightly, trying to hide the faint mark that still lingered on her cheek. "I just need to get through today," she whispered to herself. Her steps were calm, but inside, her heart was racing. She hadn't slept much. Her brother's voice from last night kept echoing in her mind. "It matters to me." She knew what that meant, and that's what scared her the most. She didn't want chaos. She didn't want revenge. She just wanted peace. But fate had other plans. Just as she reached the nurse station, a sudden commotion started outside. "Something's happening at the entrance!" Everyone turned. Curiosity quickly replaced silence. Aisha felt it too, that strange pull in her chest. Slowly, people began moving toward the hospital entrance, and then black luxury cars pulled up one after another, stopping in perfect formation. The doors opened. Men in sharp black suits stepped out, their expressions serious, their movements precise. The entire entrance area went quiet. Even the guards straightened up. Then, one more car door opened. A tall man stepped out. Calm, confident, powerful. Zayn Malik. His presence alone changed the atmosphere. People didn't need introductions. Some recognized him instantly. Others felt it instinctively. This was not an ordinary man. This was someone who could shake the ground beneath powerful people. Inside the hospital, whispers spread like wildfire. "Is that Zayn Malik? What is he doing here?" Aisha's heart skipped a beat. She didn't need to look twice. She knew. "Brother," she whispered under her breath. Her hand started trembling slightly. "This is not good," she murmured. Zayn walked inside with steady steps, his eyes scanning every face, every corner. He wasn't rushing, he wasn't angry on the surface, but something in his silence was more dangerous than anger. "Excuse me," he said to a nearby staff member. "Where is Aisha?" The staff member froze for a second. There, near the station." Zayn turned his gaze, and then he saw her. For a brief moment, his expression softened. He walked toward her. Each step slow, controlled, but filled with purpose. Aisha stood still, unsure whether to move forward or step back. When he reached her, he gently placed his hands on her shoulders. "Aisha," he said softly. Her eyes filled with tears instantly. "Brother." For a moment, neither spoke. Then his eyes moved to her cheek, the faint mark. That was enough. His jaw tightened. "Who did this?" he asked quietly. Aisha quickly shook her head. "It's okay, please don't make this bigger than it is," she said. Zayn didn't respond immediately. He just looked at her. Then he turned. "Who is in charge here?" he asked loudly. The hospital director rushed forward, clearly panicked. Sir, welcome. We didn't expect—" "I'm not here for greetings," Zayn interrupted. The director swallowed hard. "I want to know who allowed this to happen," Zayn continued. Sir, it was Mr. Victor Kane." The name hung in the air. Aisha closed her eyes briefly. Zayn nodded slowly. "Call him," he said. The director hesitated. "Sir, he's a very important—" Zayn stepped closer. "So am I." The director didn't argue again. Within minutes, calls were made. The entire hospital seemed frozen in anticipation. Aisha stood quietly beside her brother. "Please, just let it go," she whispered again. Zayn glanced at her. "If I let this go, I fail you," he said calmly. Her eyes filled again, but this time something else was there too. Relief. Because deep down, she knew she wasn't alone anymore. After a short while, the sound of footsteps echoed in the hallway. Victor Kane arrived, confident as ever, annoyed as ever. "What is this urgency? I don't have time for—" he started saying. Then he stopped. His eyes landed on Aisha. A smirk appeared on his face. "Oh, it's you," he said casually. Aisha's fingers curled slightly. Zayn stepped forward. "You slapped her." Victor looked at him up and down.
"And you are?" he asked, arrogantly. Zane didn't answer that question. "Did you slap her?" he repeated. Victor shrugged. "So what if I did?" he replied carelessly. The room fell silent again. Aisha felt her heart pound louder. Zane's expression didn't change, but his eyes, they turned colder. "She's just a nurse," Victor added, brushing it off. Aisha lowered her gaze. Zane took a slow step closer. "Do you know who she is?" he asked quietly. Victor rolled his eyes. "I don't care," he said bluntly. That was the moment everything shifted. Zane stood straight, his presence becoming overwhelming. "She is my sister," he said clearly. A murmur spread through the room. Victor's smirk faded, just for a second, but his ego didn't let him step back. "And?" he said, forcing confidence into his voice. Zane moved closer, now standing right in front of him. "So you still don't understand," he said quietly. Victor held his ground, but a small crack had already appeared in his confidence. Zane's next words landed like a storm. "You didn't just slap a nurse," he said. He paused. "You challenged the wrong family." The air turned heavy. Even breathing felt difficult. Aisha stood behind him, her heart racing. Victor's expression slowly shifted, not fear yet, but uncertainty, and that was just the beginning.
The tension in the room became suffocating. No one moved. No one spoke. Even the sound of breathing felt too loud. Victor Kane forced a small laugh, trying to break the pressure building around him. "You think this is a joke?" he said, though his voice wasn't as steady as before. Zane stood still, his face calm, his eyes sharp. "I don't joke about family," he replied quietly. Victor straightened his shoulders, trying to regain control. "You can't threaten me here," he said, raising his chin. "I own half the city." A faint murmur spread among the staff again, but Zane didn't react to the statement. Instead, he slowly raised his hand. That single gesture was enough. Immediately, one of his men stepped forward and handed a file to the hospital director. "Read it," Zane said calmly. The director's hands trembled as he opened the file. His eyes scanned the first page, then widened in shock. "Sir, this says all partnerships connected to Mr. Victor Kane are being terminated?" The room erupted in whispers. "What? That's impossible! How can this happen so fast?" Victor's expression froze. "What nonsense is this?" he snapped, stepping forward. Zane looked directly at him. "It's already done," he said, unshaken. Victor grabbed the file from the director and flipped through the pages quickly. His hands tightened. "This is fake," he said, shaking his head. "You don't have the authority to do this." Before Zane could reply, Victor's phone started ringing. Then another, and another. The sound echoed loudly in the silent hallway. Victor hesitated, then answered one call. "What is it?" he said impatiently. His expression changed instantly. "What do you mean the investors are pulling out?" He listened for a few seconds. "No, no, stop everything!" Another call came in. He answered again. "Our stocks are dropping? How much?" His face turned pale. "This can't be happening," he whispered. Around him, people watched in stunned silence. The man who walked in with arrogance was now shaking, his confidence crumbling. Zane took a step closer. "This is what power looks like," he said calmly. Victor slowly lowered his phone. His hands were trembling now. You planned this," he said, with realization. Zane didn't deny it. "You hurt someone who was helping you," he said. "You humiliated her in front of everyone while she was carrying a child." Aisha stood behind him, her eyes filled with emotion. She never imagined things would go this far. Victor looked at her, really looked this time, not as a nurse, not as someone beneath him, but as a human being, a pregnant woman, a sister, a person he had hurt. His voice softened for the first time. I didn't know, he said, regretfully. Zane's eyes didn't change. That's exactly the problem, he replied firmly. You never cared to know. Victor's shoulders dropped slightly. The weight of everything was hitting him now. His power, his money, his influence, none of it was saving him. I'd made a mistake, he said quietly. Zane didn't respond. Instead, he stepped aside slightly, giving space, giving Aisha a chance. Victor slowly turned towards her. His steps were hesitant. Gone was the arrogance. Gone was the pride. Only regret remained. I'm sorry, he said, his voice low. The entire hospital watched, waiting. Aisha looked at him. Her eyes were no longer filled with fear, no longer weak. There was pain, yes, but also strength. She took a small step forward. "Do you know what hurt the most?" she asked softly. Victor stayed silent. "It wasn't the slap," she continued. "It was how easily you did it, like I didn't matter." Victor lowered his head. "I was wrong," he admitted. Aisha placed a hand gently on her stomach. "I'm bringing a life into this world," she said, "and I don't want my child to grow up in a world where people think money gives them the right to hurt others." The words hit deep, not just Victor, everyone. The room felt different now. "I forgive you," Aisha said after a pause. Victor looked up, surprised. "But that doesn't erase what you did," she added. "It just means I refuse to carry your zulm in my heart." Zane watched her, a hint of pride in his eyes. Victor's eyes filled with something unfamiliar: regret, shame, understanding. "I don't deserve your forgiveness," he said quietly. Aisha didn't respond. She didn't need to. Zane stepped forward again. "This isn't about destroying you," he said calmly. "It's about teaching you." Victor nodded slowly. For the first time in his life, he was listening, truly listening. Zane turned to his team. "Pull back partial restrictions," he ordered. Victor looked up quickly. "You're giving me another chance?" he asked, surprised. Zane looked at him one last time. "Not for you," he said. "For her." Victor's gaze shifted to Aisha again, and this time there was respect, real respect. Zane gently placed a hand on Aisha's shoulder. "Let's go," he said softly. She nodded. As they walked away together, the path cleared for them automatically. No one spoke. No one dared. Victor remained standing there, alone, silent, changed. That day he didn't just lose money, he lost his arrogance, and in its place he gained something far more valuable: understanding, respect, humanity. And as the doors closed behind Aisha and Zane, a quiet lesson remained in the air. True power is not in wealth or status. It is in how you treat those who can do nothing for you.